Thank you.
That's okay. Carried.
That's carried. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we will move forward to adoption of the minutes. So I have a motion that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves the minutes of the June 24th, 2021 regular meeting as written. Do I have a mover for that? Jim, thank you.
Oh, Madam Chairman, I have a point on those minutes.
Oh.
Okay.
Maybe it's an amendment.
The minutes state that at our June 24th meeting, we adopted the minutes of the April 8th meeting, when it should be the
Point, sir.
May 13th meeting, I believe.
Good catch. Thank you.
Thank you. He's been eating his carrots.
Were there any
other?
other?
So that would be an amendment then?
Yes. Are there any other changes? Okay. So the motion will read that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves the minutes of the June 24th, 2021 regular meeting as amended. So do I have a mover for that? Jim, thank you. And a seconder, Tony. And all those in favor? Thank you. That's carried. And we have no delegations. So I will move on to the consent items. And Karen, I'll let you speak to this after, but I'll read the motion.
Sure.
That the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves all items listed under the consent items section of the agenda as presented. Could I get a mover for that, please? Alex, thank you. And a seconder? Dave, thank you. And any discussion on that?
I'd be very happy to discuss. I'll try to be brief, but I'd be happy to discuss that. Okay. Is that everybody okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
So just looking very quickly at the statistics, I just want to point out to everyone that the extremely positive uptake in circulation in June, followed by July, followed by August, kind of reflects the fact that we really, this time last year, or sorry, not this time, but in June of 2020, our branches were still closed. We only opened in early July. So thus you saw, I mean, it was inevitable that certainly print materials were going to increase wildly in the amount of circulation. I also pointed out or looked at the fact that our borrowers increased over the 3 months in June, July, and August, and our new members increased over the 3 months, bit by bit, more and more each month, as did our cloud library usage. Now that part to me would indicate that while everyone was very happy to start to be able to borrow and use our print collections again, the use of our cloud library or our e-resources or e-collections has certainly found its footing, and it's being used more and more by our membership. So moving on to our financial survey or our financial report, I just want to highlight the fact that our application for our public library operating grant, it is yet to be received. That could be coming anytime within the next month or two. And also just a very brief one in the financial report under magazines, periodicals, and leased books. It says that we're $6,200 over budget. That really reflects allocating an expense to the wrong budget line, because our Flipster magazine databases actually should be listed under our e-resources, not in our magazine listing. And finally, I just want to really, if you haven't had a good read through the branch reports, please do. There's so many interesting activities going on and new things taking place and whatnot. I'm just falling over with pride at all the wonderful things that we've been taking on. So I really wanted to highlight that. And that's it for me.
Any questions for Karen? Karen, Jim, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman. Karen, your report mentioned that you met people dealing with the Lancaster architectural review. Is that progressing, or how far is it progressing?
Actually, the architect that was commissioned to do the study did a presentation to local council in South Glengarry just on Tuesday evening. I sat in on the meeting to hear the presentation, and I was very impressed with the integrity and the just clear-sighted, vision that the architect presented. And I am actually going to be doing a key information report to council at its September 20th meeting with regard to the same study, just as because county council did authorize funds to be used for the study, and I wanted to kind of circle back and for accountability purposes let them know what the study revealed. And so I have a slide deck that was shared with me just prior to the presentation at South Glengarry Council, and I'm very happy that I can share that with you. I would probably send it to you as a separate email just so that you can see the slide deck in its entirety. I don't know that slide deck represents the full content of the study, but it does give a good indication of what the study was endeavoring to do. So I'm happy to share that with you, but we're at this point. I would say the architect's work is 90% completed, and it does now become a matter for the township of South Glengarry to pursue whatever action they're going to pursue as the owner of the building.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Karen? Karen, I had a question for you. Just wondered if you could briefly describe what the incident was regarding the vaccination status information.
Yes. Well, a patron came. Was it specified which branch it was? Possibly not.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't really matter. But a patron entered one of our branches and asked the staff person on duty at the time whether she had been vaccinated, and the staff person, kind of taken aback, responded to the negative, and the patron then got very upset and quite loud and kind of chastised the staff person and went on to insist on talking to the staff person's supervisor, and then reached out to the local municipality to complain as well, and went off to another branch to also demand, have you been vaccinated? At the second branch that the patron visited, staff declined to respond, which is what we prefer. But also made a point of telling the patron that we are taking every possible health and safety protocol to make sure that this facility is safe, and it's good to be able to. Everything's good to go to be able to use the facility and whatnot, and that appeased the patron, who then sat down and used the computers. I can kind of leave it at that, but it was, so
Okay.
We have since made sure that staff are instructed not to ask nor not to answer on that question.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
And I'm pleased to see that you've been successful in hiring a new community librarian.
Yes,
So
I'll talk a little
great.
bit more about that later on in the agenda, but I'm happy about that as well.
Okay.
Okay.
So we had the motion moved by Alex and seconded by Dave to accept all the items listed under the consent items section of the agenda. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. That's carried. And the next portion of the meeting, I will turn over to Karen.
Thank you very much. Yes, as per the Public Libraries Act and the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County's Library Board's procedure bylaw, in the event that the chair position has been declared vacant, the board shall elect a new chair, and it is part of my responsibility as the person acting as the CEO for the library to preside over that election. So at this point, I am the motion that I'm putting out is that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library elect one of its members to the position of chair of the library board. May I have a mover and a seconder on that, or if there's some discussion, if there are more than one person that would like to be is interested in the job, please let me know, indicate by raising your hand or speaking up at this point, please.
Tony?
Well, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. It seems to be almost two questions. Mover and seconder for the action request that we go ahead, and then are we going to after it's moved and seconded and carried that we go ahead with the recommendation? Are we going to move into, I guess, in essence, nominations and election? Is that the idea?
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I as you noticed when other documents that I prepared, that I do kind of crib from previous questions in the same way at the beginning of this board's term. This question was put to you exactly as it is now, or this recommendation is put as it's put to you right now, that the board elect one of its members. And I hear what you're saying, that yes, we need to go ahead with that. I guess I'm kind of combining the whole question with having a mover to nominate someone, a seconder to nominate that person, or if there are more than one persons interested in the position, that you first of all speak up, in which case we can at least carry on with this recommendation and then move on to the next one as to the election itself. Okay, does that make sense? I'm not all that clear, but I can see where you're coming from.
Frank?
Thank you. It's for you, Margaret, or Madam Chair. Thank you, Karen. So to that, yeah, if we're just looking for people to not self-nominate or nominate, I'd like to nominate myself or put my name
Be considered.
I'd like to be considered. Thank you for finding the correct words.
Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to be considered?
I would like to be considered. I'd like to be considered as well, Karen.
Okay,
Please.
Margaret. So we have a horse race. Awesome.
No.
Can I interrupt? So can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can, and we can see you now.
Okay, well, I'm through my phone. For some reason, it's not detecting my, so I had to reboot. Anyways, now I can see you, and I'm glad that you can hear me. So you can go ahead. If I see right now, do we only have the 2 nominations that have come forward?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are you expressing an interest in the position?
No.
Okay.
Is
is anyone else expressing an interest in the position? Okay, so we have 2.
Tony, did you
sorry.
Yes, I need to interrupt. I'm sorry, and my apologies to everyone. I and to Margaret and your position. I thought you were co-chair now. Or
she's vice chair.
I'm vice chair.
Vice chair. My apologies. I thought there was a chair from the lay side and a chair from the other side. That being said, Mike, my ignorance of the whole thing, I thought there was 2 chairs, two co's. No, I'm going to withdraw my name. If Margaret's putting her name forward, I think Margaret's I don't want to be your campaign manager, but I am. And so I know I'll withdraw my name, seeing as how I was misunderstanding that. I thought it was two co-chairs and not a
Okay.
chair and a vice.
Well, Tony,
I-
just to let you know, I mean, we haven't had the election yet, but should we have the election for Margaret as the chair, the vice chair position will immediately become open. So, you know,
Ooh.
all eyes will be on you.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate
So
that.
at this point, I have with Tony withdrawing his name at this point, I have Margaret as an identified candidate for the position of chair. Would anyone like to move that Margaret be elected the board chair?
I will move that, Karen.
Francois, okay. And a seconder, Dave. And if you don't mind, I'm going to just adjust the motion that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board elect Margaret McDonald to the position of chair. Are we okay with that? Okay. Margaret McDonald. Okay, sorry, hold on with me. Okay, so we have a moved by Francois, seconded by Dave, that Margaret be elected to the position of chair. Can we have a raise of hands on this, please? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Margaret, you've got the job.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your support. And Tony, I appreciate what you said.
And
I
I
did-
hand it over to you, Margaret. You're the chair now.
Oh, thank you. I did want to add to that. I realize that I'm not an elected official. And on that note, I do realize the importance of county council meetings. And I am more than happy to attend those meetings, either virtually or in person, to do presentations with Karen if directed or requested. I know that we already have a number of advocates. I'm looking around on county council, but I do appreciate the importance of the relevance of that meeting and what goes on there. So I wanted to add that to the fact that I'd be more than happy to do that, just to make sure that I'm connected in all the right places where I should be. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Here, here.
Dave?
Thank you. Just to complete the elections, is this the time that I can nominate Tony to be vice chair now that that seat is empty?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I would like to nominate Tony if you'll accept that nomination.
Absolutely. So we've got that motion moved by Dave. Would anyone like to second that motion? I'll pick on Alex. Thank you. So I have a motion here moved by Dave, seconded by Alex, that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board, and I'm going to slightly amend this, Karen, just as you
I've
did.
got it now ready.
Okay, elect Tony Fraser to the position of vice chair. All those in favor?
Oh, Tony's in favor. That's the most important one.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tony. I really appreciate that.
And thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. I'm going to jump right in, and sorry, Margaret, but no, I'm looking forward to this. As I said at the outset of the meeting, Margaret, your addition to the agenda for this month is it was touching. It really reflected what we want to do as a library board, and it puts us in a good light. And I think as we all went through the package, and especially for our newest and our second newest, Alex and Dave, it demonstrates, as I said at the outset of the meeting, how this is a good group that has a common goal, and it's a good goal. And I'm thank you for the nomination. Thank you for the support.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay. So the next item is the 2020 SDG Library Annual Report that Tony was just referring to. I will ask, well, actually, did we want to have discussion about this first? I did have a question or a change for it, Karen.
Sure, sure. I just to reprise everyone, every year as we fill out the annual public library statistics document, it's a very weighty, very numbers statistic based document that we're required by law to submit to the Provincial Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Tourism, and Culture Industries. When sport, don't forget sport. So we do that, and then on the heels of that, having submitted those numbers, the next two processes that happen is we can apply for our public library operating grant, which I've already mentioned, and we can produce our annual report. And I apologize, I'm not 100% sure that we're legally obligated to create an annual report, but I do believe that might be the case. It certainly has always been done while I've been in the employ of this library, and every other library that I see is doing this something similar, but it becomes more of a public relations document and a useful outreach communication tool. Then it's certainly nobody wants to read through the annual survey to get their information about how we're doing. So we've once again we had COVID has created delays and everything. So, I mean, we try to get it done before our June meeting, if at all possible. That's only happened in my time here twice, I think. Usually it comes up at the September meeting. So here we are. I'm actually very happy to note that the document that you see here was designed and drafted by Margaret Piper, our systems librarian. We wanted to integrate Margaret into the annual workflow of the library a bit more, kind of relieve this community librarian who has drafted or created the annual report in the past of a little bit of the work that's very congested through this time of year, but largely to also reflect that in 2020, our service model became very much more related to our e-resources and our technologies, which seemed to be a better fit for Margaret, and giving her an opportunity to exercise her design chops as well as her statistical analysis chops. So I just want to let that, make note of that for the public record, and to kind of show you, the different ways to tell our stories. And I think this is one way that we do this. So I'll leave it with that, and you can leave it for your discussion. Okay.
I just had a couple of questions, Karen.
Mm-hmm.
On the front of the report in my message, I'm just wondering where it says, is it a year of adaptation or adaption?
Adaptation.
I'm really looking here. Adaptation. It should be adaptation. I do.
Yes, that's
okay.
what I believe.
Good. Yep. Okay, good point. You've been eating your carrots too.
I have. And I don't know if it's presumptuous, but am I able to say SDG library chair at this point, or do we leave it as vice for now?
Let's do it as chair. It came up with the order it came in. Perfect. Love it. Okay.
That was it for me. Did anyone have any other questions about the annual report? Okay, so I have a motion here, but I'm going to change it, Karen, to as amended.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the motion is that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves the draft 2020 SDG Library Annual Report as amended, and authorizes library staff to publish the document for distribution. Can I have someone move that for me, please? Tony, thank you. And a seconder? Dave, thank you very much. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Excellent.
And the next item is the 2022 Library Services Budget Meeting. And again, Karen, I will let you speak to that, please.
Yeah, let's get this one behind us, please. Uh, I am busy working as we speak, well, not as we speak, but through the course of the last few weeks and into the next couple of weeks on drafting our 2022 library services budget for our annual meeting. We have had it at various times, but County Council has indicated that they would like to have the budget meetings in early December, which then requires at a staff level that we back up our timelines to accommodate, because the Director of Financial Services, County Treasurer, has got a lot of work she has to do in the background to get ready for that presentation of budget to council. And because what the library board's discussions, amendments, approvals, etc. of the budget has to come before that is presented to council. We need to set a timeline for that. It can happen anytime between next Friday and October 8th. If you say next Friday, I think I'll have to faint and someone will have to come and pick me up off the ground. But I would like to recommend that that we choose, if possible, Friday, October 1st. I put this out there like this because there's a lot of people have to check their calendars and whatnot. It's not nearly as easy as straightforward as it would seem. But the preferred date would be Friday, October 1st. The Director of Financial Services, County Treasurer, can be available to talk with us and support us and give us some guidelines if we need it. And we can go from there. But I leave it now for you to determine what that date will be. Okay.
Okay. So does anyone have conflicts with that particular date, Tony?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do have a conflict. I'll be at work all day from 6 till 6 on that day. If it was virtual, I could attend, but if we're going to be live, I'm at this moment, I'm not able to attend. I could work around it, possibly. I mean, I could put some effort into working around it. I'm not sure I can confirm that I can get the time off, but I am available. Just to throw 2 dates out, the Thursday, the 30th. I know that's a long week for county council members with committee of the whole meetings and other meetings, but then Monday and Tuesday of the following week, I'm available as well. So that's just a quick overview of my schedule in that immediate area of October 1st.
Okay.
I do think ideally we should have the meeting in person if possible. Because, it's just the nature of the discussions. It doesn't really lend itself as well to a virtual meeting as a live meeting would.
Okay.
That out there.
I agree.
May I jump in? And I do agree as well. That's why I mentioned I have a conflict. Maybe I'll be able to, in the next couple of days, talk to some of my fellow coworkers to see if they can shuffle their shifts around to accommodate this.
Well, let's see if others can, if anyone else has a conflict or could accommodate.
Does anyone
change.
else have a conflict, like on September 30th, the Thursday?
Good.
The County Council, I believe, is that the date for our committee of the whole meeting? Your mic is on, Tony.
I don't have my paper calendar in front of me, Frank, but I know that it must be Wednesday and Thursday. I'm looking at it. I only have it down for the one day on the 29th, but it's 2 days. So I don't imagine it's Tuesday, Wednesday. I imagine it's Wednesday, Thursday. So saying all that to the chair, yeah, the 30th is probably out as well too. It's a busy week.
Okay. Well, I can ask this one last question, the 4th or the 5th, or we can maybe send out a doodle poll, Karen, if you want, just to save time tonight to let people see what their availability is with those dates on it, I guess. If I don't know if the 30th is workable or not, but certainly the 4th or the 5th, and people could take a look at their schedules.
And I'll reiterate, I'll work with my coworkers to see if we can switch some days around. So so I will try to make the 1st work, but at this point it doesn't.
Okay, we'll include the 1st and we'll see what happens. Jim?
Either the 30th or the 1st is better for me. We're off to see that new grandson on October the 5th.
Okay. Okay, so I'll ask Karen then if you can send out
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
poll, Carol. And
We
Karen.
we could even consider it a bit earlier if there's a will for that, but like there is a county council meeting on the 20th. Perhaps there's something that tied in with the 20th that could be considered. It's a little rushed for me, but it's okay. This makes me work harder.
Record, Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
may.
Absolutely.
I'm actually heading out on the 17th, so I haven't seen my daughter for 2 years, and we're going up to Rhode Island flying up to see her. So I'll be back only on the 27th. And then I believe there's the committee of the whole. And if we're looking at that, I believe there's a bus tour. And my regular day job. So let's see if you want to admit I'm now, Jim, I'm not sure what your dates are, but I would follow through possibly on the Monday of the next week would maybe work better for me than the Friday. I believe the 1st is a Friday.
Mhm.
Well, we'll do our best to get as many people as possible based on availability.
Yeah,
So
any time during that week of October 4th would also work fine. So I'll put something together and send it out.
okay.
Okay, so we can't do much about this at this point. We'll defer this one.
Yes, we'll defer this one. So, okay.
And sorry, excuse me, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is the board okay with making a decision of this sort via poll and or email rather than having it as part of our official motions of meeting in the public setting?
Doodle polls work pretty good. As long as everybody responds ASAP.
Mm-hmm. I have been reminded in the past not to ask for decisions to be made outside of a meeting. This is why, but this is a scheduling question more than a decision.
It is.
Well, I am good from October 1st straight to the 8th. So if that helps, I'm wide open. I'll block those dates just in case it's going to be one of them. So
okay, well, we'll send if everyone is okay with me setting this up via doodle poll, email, whatever, then we'll go ahead with it in this way rather than having it as a formal motion through the meeting. Okay.
very good.
I'm fine with that. Okay. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the 50th anniversary celebration.
Yeah.
Virtual visit with Margaret Atwood. Back over to you, Karen.
Okay, well, this is quite exciting, and this has been going on, humming away in the background with people who have more exciting job activities than I do, it would seem. But yeah, we've our current community librarian has been communicating with and negotiating with Margaret Atwood, the very famous, iconic Canadian author, for some time, and has secured a tentative date to have Margaret Atwood participate as a virtual author visitor to our library in mid-November. And but it does require a substantial expenditure of funds, county funds, in this case, not library board funds. So I was advised to get the board's approval on going ahead with this and securing the date with Ms. Atwood to make a visit. I am going to add as well, because I was jealous about someone else getting to have so much fun and not me, that I also reached out to the people involved with the debaters. Some of you may know the debaters, quite well known CBC radio program, comedy-based program, and they have also indicated that there might be some availability, but at a similar price to what we would be asked to pay for Ms. Atwood. So I kind of think that it's, needs to be one or the other. And in the spirit of true librarianship, I would suggest that having an iconic Canadian author is probably more in keeping with our mandate and our focus than having a comedy troupe. But that, it'd be nice to have both. It'd be an awful lot of fun. It'd be quite a party. Anyway, so the reason that we're asking this is because you can see in the financial analysis that there is a quite a substantial fee of $20,000, but this could be used with, or could be paid using COVID-19 funding that's provided to the counties, because there's no other way we can get her to come or anyone to come for a live visit at this time with the regulations and deterrents to live events. So I'm just, the access here is whether how the library board support to have, to proceed with booking Ms. Atwood to come for a virtual visit as part of our 50th anniversary celebrations.
I'll go to Frank Landry. Francois.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Maybe Karen, you can, so I understand the fees involved. It's like you're going to an NHL game versus beer league old timers, so this is pretty much the cream. My question would be, how is this going to evolve as far as just timeline? Can you maybe give us a brief of how, does she come on for 15 minutes and is done, or like how is that process going to work? Can you maybe just elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, I don't think it's mentioned in the background or that Susan provided to us, but I think it's about I would suggest about an hour long to 2 hour long event. It probably is somewhat in keeping with the previous live author visits we've had with our SDG Reads program. So, and indeed, the speaker speaks for about an hour or so, but the event around it is, it creates a whole evening affair or whatever. So I think that's the kind of the way it would go. I'm not fully familiar with this myself. I'm finding all of this, doing everything virtually, to be quite a new experience for me. And thus I don't do a lot of it, and I stay home alone a lot. This seems to be the new way, and this is what authors or performers or entertainers or celebrities of the caliber of Ms. Atwood, or indeed of the debaters, this is what they charge to make a presentation. By comparison, when in my discussions with the people behind the debaters, they suggested for about 16,000 and up, they would do a 50-minute event, virtual event.
And just subsequent to that, Mrs. Chair, so would it be done through, similar to county council, like through the Facebook?
I'm not exactly sure which platform they would use, but it probably would be Zoom or whatever. Yeah. It would be interactive as well, and there would be a moderator involved. And we are actually thinking that, my first fear was, am I the moderator as the CEO, or am I the one who's going to be asking all the questions? But I think we'd try to find someone like maybe Alan Neal with CBC Radio, or some well-known commentator, and to kind of do that moderation. And the public, JoQ public, would be invited to submit questions that could be asked of Ms. Atwood, and she would, it would be all kind of well set up, so it's very professional and a well planned out and well executed event.
Thank you.
I'll go to Jim next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That was my question, moderator, so that's been answered. Thank you.
I'm just curious, Karen, what were previous costs, like when we had, I'm thinking Kelly,
Yeah, we have actually we've had to do for a fair bit of fundraising for them, but I think in previous years we have budgeted maybe around as much as $5,000 for a author. As I say, that Ms. Atwood is in a whole other field to others. One author that we've had our hopes out for a very long time, of course, is Louise Penny.
yes,
And she's soaring off into the stratosphere in popularity, and her time is just that valuable now. So I think it's a bit surprising in a way for someone who doesn't think in those big numbers, but it's I think it's reasonable.
no, I understand the caliber that we're talking is much different. But I noticed as well that this was vetted by the county CAO as well, and finance as well.
Yes.
And they didn't see any issue at all.
No, I'm actually beginning to learn just that there are certain people or certain activities that you do that cost more money, like consultancy fees. I'm finding are much higher than what I would have expected. And certainly our CAO and our Director of Financial Services are more used to seeing those kinds of numbers across their desks.
No, I just meant in terms of it coming from COVID funding.
Oh, no,
fine.
they were actually quite on board with it because
Okay.
they do know that this is an important celebration for us, and that, we don't have a whole lot of options at our disposal, quite frankly, given the current circumstances with the pandemic. So,
Okay. Question from Tony.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And it is because of COVID. It's a fantastic opportunity, and the COVID funding certainly applies to an event like this. The reason why we have to hold a virtual event is because of COVID, and that's the base question. Why are you? What causes X to be considered that? And it truly does. So, and as has been alluded to, the impact of it's fitting for a 50-year anniversary celebration to have as Karen has mentioned a few times, an iconic Canadian author. This is big news. This is big news for Canadians, big news for people that like books. This is big news for SDG Library. I think I agree. I'm confident that this would be wholeheartedly supported by everyone and anyone. So that's not my question, Madam Chair, but my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? Okay, so I have Alex.
Sorry, just catch on the end there. This might be too early to mention, so it might be a question, might be more of a comment, because I know that we haven't voted to go through with this necessarily yet, but just wondering what kind of time of day or day of the week that this kind of event would be held on. And I know that might be something that you have to discuss with Ms. Atwood and her management. But just kind of wondering trying to keep the youth of SDG that may want to attend in mind.
Yes, Alex, I do believe it's the intended time for the presentation and the visit would be early evening, around 6:30 or so in the evening. A good point about young people being able to also attend. I know she's written some wonderful books for kids as well, so there might be some interest from some of our younger readers or some of us older ones who always wanted to know about Princess Prunella and her purple pickles or whatever it was. So yeah, early evening.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions, I have a motion here that the Stormont, Dundas and Glengarry County Library Board approves a virtual author visit with Margaret Atwood as part of the SDG Library's 50th anniversary celebrations, and that the board authorizes staff to make all necessary arrangements to facilitate this event in November 2021. Can I have someone to move that motion? Alex, thank you. And a seconder? Jim, thank you. All those in favor?
Can I add a question to that, Margaret?
Absolutely.
Okay. It's just that the wording that you have there, if the COVID funding does not cover it, are we still, so do we implement in there that we are getting granted from the COVID funds compared to the library board budget?
The good point, Frank, that it is stated as part of this action request in the financial analysis part, that it's, I mean, it's all tied in together, but I do not believe that, well, financially, I think we could afford it this year if we didn't have COVID funding, but I don't think that we should go ahead if we can't use the COVID funding, just putting it that way, because I mean, that's not what funds were allocated for.
So should we,
through the library budget?
Should we make an amendment to that motion then, just to indicate that it's being funded? Frank, is that would you be?
Well, we're moving forward and voting on our motion. I'm just saying, if the COVID funding, which is outside of our expertise, Rebecca would be the one to grant it. If it doesn't come through, I'm just saying, are we moving forward? I'm just protecting the wording into that motion.
Absolutely, Karen.
I have been assured that the funding will be honored through COVID funding. What was required was to get the library board's approval to go ahead, simply because it is a substantial amount of money.
I'm in full support. Good, thank you.
Okay, so all those in favor? Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much.
Cool. Save November 17th, folks.
The next item on the agenda was the performance review of the Director of Library Services. So I only put it on the agenda to let everyone know that that was completed. Karen and I met, I forget when it was, but we met in...
I can tell you that actually, but it was in late July.
Yeah, late July.
The 20th, yeah.
Okay. And Karen signed off on her performance review. It was also sent to the CAO, who reviewed it and signed off. His comments were that the review was very well done, and he thanked me for completing the task. So I'm very happy to share that document. If any of you would like to see that, just let me know, and I can certainly, with Karen's permission, share that performance review with you. But I wanted to let you know that it was completed on time, and it has been submitted, and is gone to Carolyn as well for filing for Karen for her records. Any questions? Okay, thank you. And the next item is board development, consideration of overdue fines, continuation. So I'll turn this back over to Karen.
Okay, thank you. If you will remember, those of you who were at our June 24th meeting, very robust, very, very engaged discussion about the consideration of overdue fines. And I mean, I was thrilled just to hear the various point of views and what people were asking and comments that were being made. I did want to just pursue it just a bit further. There were feelings both pro and against eliminating overdue fines. There were also people like myself who were on the fence about it, but I do think that it warrants some more discussion. And I should tell you, just this afternoon, like 2 minutes before I was logged on to attend this meeting, I received an email from the Ontario Library Association, which is kind of like a newsletter, periodic newsletter. And they actually, one of the articles that they talked about was the calculation of hidden costs associated with library fines. So it is definitely still something that's very much in just a topic of discussion amongst library staff, library boards, and different libraries are approaching it with different ideas or different maybe value systems, a vision of what their library would be like if they continued to charge overdue fines, and what the vision of their library would be if they decided not to charge overdue fines anymore. And just to kind of add a little bit to this discussion, I wanted to share with you this article, this sample article that's included in your board package about Brampton Library and an approach that they took in 2018, which was to eliminate fines on children's materials, not on children's cards, not on all materials, and not on adult cards, only on children's materials. And one of the things that for me that resonated with this was that it children's and families weren't being penalized for wanting to learn to read, nor were people who were simply trying to improve their literacy levels. And a lot of times people with low literacy levels who want to improve look to children's books and children's materials to help them gain confidence. So this was an approach that I thought was quite interesting. And it was also the fact that they won a provincial award in 2019 for this initiative, and I've said, well, there's something to this. I think one of the things that kind of connects it to a little bit of what we're looking at is how they also incorporated this change in process to their strategic plan and what they're trying to achieve in a kind of a visionary level. So I kind of put that out there. I just wanted to kind of open it up again and see if there's any more appetite to discuss this, if there's any path you'd like to consider going forward. I can tell you right now, we do not have a motion sitting here on the sidelines to make a decision on this, but I think it would be healthy and good for everybody, especially when we have a new member and maybe a member or two that weren't able to attend our June meeting, to have a little bit more, bit more of a look at it and a bit more of a discussion about it.
Any thoughts, Alex?
Just to start off, thanks, Madam Chair. Question about this Brampton Library example that we have, where they removed fees on children's materials. I excuse my ignorance, but I'm not familiar of where the lines of children's materials would begin and end. Like, I'd imagine Dr. Seuss and Robert Munch count as children's materials, but does, say, Harry Potter
Yes.
or Hunger Games, or those young adult novels?
Those are still considered to be children's. In a library's, any library's database, a collections database, actually there is a designation as to whether it is a juvenile book or a young adult book. But a very good point that you make. And if in the in terms of operationalizing this, in the case of Brampton, they would have simply gone into their ILS, their database, and flagged every item that was cataloged and categorized in their collections as children's, and those items would have immediately become, or would collectively become, fine free. If an item crosses that threshold into young adult or new adult or teen materials, then those items would not be subject to fine free status. a good question.
Frank.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, everybody has their opinion. I'm opinionated, and I could rely or mention my views as to where I think this should go. But I have quite a bit of faith in our library staff, and I think that the staff in general at SDG, they live it every day more than say a board member as myself. And I think that I would be willing to have sort of a consensus between our staff and our basically people working for the library board to come up with something, and then me myself as a member of the board would consider supporting but I believe that Karen is a wealth of knowledge when it comes that every day she sees it, not just with SDG, but every library board that has the different concern or comments made towards this thing. So I don't know, Karen, maybe you can elaborate. Is there something out there as far as a consensus between the staff where you would like to see it, and something like a little blurb to be presented to the board, and then it would be on us to see if it's supported, like we would support it or not?
Well, part of the reason, I'll be honest with you, Frank, part of the reason it's back on here as well is because my colleagues in our library do have pretty strong feelings about it. Some are for, some are against, but generally speaking, I think they would like to see some action. I have a document in front of me that was gathering responses from our colleagues. They're working in the public side of things. A positive to going fine free is that it builds patron morale, and patrons don't feel that their patrons would feel like they're getting a gift every time a fine wasn't administered. But on the other side of that same thing, there are no consequences. What's keeping patrons from keeping books out long after they're due? That this becomes more of an issue, of course, with brand new best-selling blockbuster popular items, but we're charging the same fines, the same process on items we've had in our collections for a dozen years. If it's overdue, it's overdue. The other part of this is that one really would have to tighten up on the billing notices. So rather than letting someone have something out for 6 to 8 weeks before sending them a notice that, your item's been out for so long, we're going to bill you to replace it. You tighten that up so that they know after, say, 2 to 3 weeks, you've had this out so long that, perhaps you want to keep it, in which case you have to pay for it. If you don't want to keep it, then please bring it back because other people are waiting for it. This article that I mentioned from the Ontario Library Association actually also pointed out they created an infographic, and they said that they've done their research with good statisticians behind them. They said that for every $5 fine that's charged to a patron, it costs the library $5.95 between the staff time and the envelopes and stamps and everything else that goes into billings or telling someone your item's overdue. They're incurring a greater cost than what the fine was. We recently did a bit of a reach out to we turned on the billing notices again quite recently because we had them turned off through the hardest part of the pandemic. And there was one story I can relate as of today. There was one person who had over $800 worth of library materials out, and he got that billing notice finally, and lo and behold, he's returned over $600 worth of materials. So it's not that necessarily that they want to keep them. It's just things get in the way, busy, fell under the car seat of the car, whatever. So there's a lot of reasons why items don't get returned as timely as they can be. With this Brampton sample, I'm not, that this is not advocating for a full blown, wide open, everybody goes fine free. it could be something that could be considered after we test the waters, but it certainly does seem to be a very positive minded and helpful and supportive approach to helping kids and developing literacy by eliminating on a specific kind of collection rather than on a wholesale, everybody gets a free pass.
Dave, I'll go to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I see where the thought process was in removing fines from children's books. But in the end, it's not the children who are paying the fines. It's the adults. So I don't know if we're giving the children a free pass here or if we're giving the adults a free pass. I think it's also prudent that the adults use this fine system to instill responsibility into the kids. So, there's that way of looking at it. I'm sorry, I wasn't there for the other debate or the discussion on this. I read this thing from Brampton, and I understand that what works there might be different than what works here. But it's just something else to consider, because it's not the children that we're relieving from the fine process because we're not going to fine children's books. It's the adults. Yeah. And I think we need to put some pressure on the adults to instill the responsibility to the kids to make sure that those books and other library items get returned on time.
And I would suggest, Dave, that it's also it's important to instill some responsibility in the adults to take this privilege seriously and bring items back. It's not the children's fault, by and large, that they can't bring their items back on time.
You're right.
They don't have the means to get to the library on their own. A lot of the time, it's their parents who they're relying on their parents too. And
you're absolutely right, Karen.
Keep an eye on the calendar. So.
Yeah. And I know we all have very strong views about this. We're not going to solve this, but Tony, I'll go to you next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And no, there's no resolution on the table for this, but this is an opportunity to further express our views. So whenever the resolution does come, we can rehash that, but at least everyone will have a fair understanding where each member sits. I'm, as I was before, I'm for the removal of the fines. I think there's other mechanisms to be put in place. Whenever Karen speaks about $800 worth of books being out at one time, that's an abuse of the system, not by the library, but by the card holder. Do we reduce the number of books removed so we don't ever run into an $800 issue? Do we hold it back to whatever the value of 4 books are, be it $400? And so we reduce that so people can't would take another book out, and they're allowed to have a float of 3 books or 4 books out at a time, and that would be not the punitive, but that'd be the controlling factor, or one thought on a controlling factor. But I'm still an advocate for removing the fine process. That's an antiquated method. That was the only method available years and years, 100 years ago. There's other ways that we can manage recovering the books and having them returned. Just you put a limit on, or there's some other thoughts, but the first thought in my mind is that let's be a little proactive. I know as a youngster, as a kid, whenever I'd have library books out, that was a big fear. That was a boogeyman, that you had a book overdue. It didn't change anything for me. You asked your parents for 15 cents and you went to the library, and that's it. It didn't cause anything, but there are other ways to deal with it, I'm sure. But getting rid of and following the, maybe not the whole plan that Brampton has in place, but following the lead of Brampton, I think is important. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. I'll go to Jim next. You had a comment, Jim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of points. One is that the elected council members here maybe should think about it, because whatever money is not collected through the library system comes out of the counties, at some budget or other, where the library functions. And secondly, I think the first point that we talked about there, or Karen mentioned, that books that are very popular and have a waiting list, I can see that becoming a real issue if people didn't bring those in on time. And maybe there's some way of rigging the computer so that it distinguishes between books that were on a waiting list and books that were not on a waiting list or had a waiting list. And books that had a waiting list fines would be assessed as per usual. That would be up to the computers to sort that one out, but it might be a way around it. Because I'm really impressed with that a new popular book could disappear for weeks and weeks.
It happens.
That's my point.
And sorry,
Karen?
I just want to emphasize that currently our Tony mentioned, having a limit on how many books you can take out or whatever, but currently what we have is setting our limits is where your financial account sits. So if you've racked up $15 worth of fines, then your borrowing privileges are cut off. Okay. I do believe as well, it limits your whether you can access public access computers and stuff too, because you need your library card to be able to do that. And that's all triggered automatically. So it's a bit different than you're only allowed to take out 3 books or 5 books or 20 books or whatever it is. So just let you know that, just for clarification. Okay.
Jim, did you want to add something?
Yes, but that doesn't get back the popular novel that somebody just adds to his collection at home, and the library just ends up absorbing the cost of that, I guess.
I'm not sure how to respond, actually. Sorry.
Well, Tony, I'll go to you.
Well, thank you to not rebut Jim, but to respond to Jim's thought. If someone's going to steal a book from the library, a fine in place doesn't matter. They've stolen the book; they won't come back. The book is gone. If they've so determined, if they're an upfront card-carrying member of the library and they want to continue using the services, they will have to bring the books back, or they can't use the services. And if it's someone that's stolen a book to sell it at school to someone, when they make a small profit, they don't care about the fine. They're not going to, they're not going to darken our doors if they're dishonest people. Is my thought on it.
Any other comments, Alex?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I wasn't present for the last discussion either, so I just wanted to kind of explain my kind of views on this topic. I think going off of what Karen mentioned earlier about, parents pay the fines, but, parents are also a lot of times probably the reason why, late fees happen in a lot of these cases. I think that our board should be trying to inspire some more autonomy for the youth of SDG. I mean, we have a lot of very rural areas across SDG, and it makes me think, a lot of children are not necessarily within walking distance of a branch and can go return the books themselves, and they get into the situation where, I can imagine this hypothetical where parent realizes that their kids racked up 1 or 2 late fees and they go, we're not really going to be able to afford this. So they stop going to the library. And my view is that it's the library's responsibility to promote the use of library materials rather than try to protect our library materials. And I recognize that, if we were to go through with some kind of fee removal, late fee removal process, there would definitely be issues and, some growing pains at first that would need to be kind of ironed out. But I really think that removal of late fees, at least for children's and youth content, would be a really progressive move forward. I'd be in support of that. And I mean, this is what we're seeing libraries all over the province and the country are moving towards. So anyway, yeah.
Okay. Any other comments? I'd be interested as well, Karen, knowing, you know, what your staff and yourself, you know, and through further research and what's happening around us. But I would agree with Frank that I would like to hear, you know, from you guys, kind of a position, whether it's unanimous or not, but a position that you would like to see, and why. And, you know, we have a lot of reasons why, but we can have a further discussion on it. But I'd like to hear more from the staff as well about how they feel about it.
Okay.
And I think just, you know, a common ground, if there's a way to approach it in phases, if it's, you know, we start with something with children's material and, you know, use it to see how that goes, and but just to get some input from those people that are dealing with us on an everyday basis.
Okay. Perfect. I can do that.
Okay. So we'll move on to the next item, which is strategic planning, readiness, and budget consideration.
This
Back
is
to Karen.
really, yep, sorry. This is really just a placeholder to let everyone know that I will be putting in an ask in our 2022 budget for facilitation for a new strategic plan to be worked on and completed in 2022. We have not had an outside facilitated strategic planning process in place since 2011. We did put together a new strategic plan. I think it was in 2018 that we did in-house, and I think we did a pretty good job. It did elicit some lively discussion and whatnot, but it really was more of an operational plan or a work plan than a truly visionary, you know, dream out there on strategic planning. I have been reaching out to various consultants who do this kind of work and have a bit of a range of numbers been thrown at me in terms of what it would cost the board to get into it, but I think we can well afford to do that. So I just wanted to put that in place and to start sowing the seed of why we do the strategic planning and what it's intended to do. Just to let you know, that document that's cited on the second page of this section, Library Development Guide number 3. I have a copy. I'm willing to send it out to anybody who wants to read it. It is 106 pages long, so you're getting, you know, you can thank me later for sending you the short version. Okay, so that's really just a placeholder right now. I would like to try to, if possible, move on and get to the next item just for the sake of having Tony involved before he has to leave.
Absolutely. Okay. Yep. Let's roll right into
it. But
it.
I would also recommend each of you on an individual level, you know, please take the time to fill out that section, the board readiness checklist, so that you have a better sense of where you think we are in starting this process. Okay.
Okay. Go for keep going, Karen. Guidelines for special collections.
So yes, so I just wanted to, this is because the library board approved funding for an archives intern and to have our local history and our special collections looked at with a fine-tooth comb. I wanted to, for accountability purposes, get back to you and show you what we got for our investment. So this is, you know, there's an executive summary which kind of summarizes the other, I don't know how many pages of the report that was produced by our archives intern that we had from November of 2020 to the end of April of this year. Charlotte Halstead was our archives intern, a delightful young woman who made herself very, much present in the counties and did excellent work and was a real charm to work with. And I think she produced an excellent report and has given us, there's another document that I didn't include here, which is more of a database or a spreadsheet, but really itemizes on a, what to do with what item, what's the best route to take for it and whatnot. So I just wanted to give you that. But also I'm moving on to the next section in our discussion items, and to announce to the library board that it was indeed our Charlotte who was the successful candidate for our new community librarian position. So Charlotte's starting with us next Monday. She'll have a couple of weeks to overlap working with Susan and to kind of get her, get onboarded into the new position. And we're really looking forward to having her on board on a permanent level. And she's, I look forward to introducing her to you in person.
And Karen, just a question.
Yep.
So can I understand then that those recommendations at the end of that report then will be addressed? Wonderful. Thank you.
As time allows, we're busier than long-tailed pussycats in a room full of rocking chairs, but it was definitely this is something that we will undertake, and having Charlotte here to kind of, run roughshod over that will certainly help.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so that's just something I wanted to share with you in terms of making sure you know what was done with what we planned to do. Okay,
that's great news. That's wonderful. And the next item, Tony left just as we knew he would, so that's fine. The next item is the 2021 TD Summer Reading Club.
Yeah, this is just a brief roundup of what went on. It was a great program, all things considered. I mean, much of it, the vast majority of it had to be done virtually, but we had two very keen young women who undertook it. They didn't know each other from a hole in the ground when they started, and they've ended up being fast friends at the end of it. The program was 95% bilingual, which was great for us. They were busy. There were a lot of technologies that they did not know at all when they started, but very quickly, young people amaze me, they learned how to do a presentation or run a, Zoom meeting or whatever, the things that they hadn't done before. It was great. They made their way out to 13, well, not out to, but they connected with 13 schools in the area and did 29 virtual presentations ahead of the program. They had over 200 kids participating in it. At one point, those of you who come to county administration, to our boardroom, the entire boardroom was filled, like the entire room was filled with take-home kits that were packaged up in brown paper bags and whatnot and then it became a matter, and we all hands on deck. I helped out as well. We made sure that these take-home kits were delivered to the kids' registered libraries so that they could pick them up. And I participated in some of the Zoom meetups that they had, and the kids just had a wonderful time with it all. It was fun. Difficult situation, but fun. And I think everybody really benefited from it. Families, parents were really happy that their kids, got to participate in this way. I'm sure most of the kids were quite well versed with doing stuff online, but it was fun. That was our ultimate goal with it. So I was happy about that. Okay.
That's great. That's great. Thanks, Karen.
Yep.
And on to library programs.
Yeah, we've started several months ago to include the library programs this in the board agenda, partly as a tool for you members to, in your advocacy and when you're talking amongst your networks about what's going on at the library. And we put it right at the end of the agenda, of course. So imagine if this was a paper agenda in front of you, you could just kind of pull off that last sheet and off you go to your next meeting or meet up with somebody and be able to talk about what's going on at the library. So we've got some good things going on with, virtual programs, book club activities, seasonal craft programs, an ongoing, we have a weekly ancestry club that meets online, and just quite a variety of different things that are going on. And I put it here in the agenda for you to kind of rip that page off and tell everybody about it.
Good plan. Any questions at all for Karen? Okay, we have no in-camera session. So I have a motion here that the regular meeting of the Stormont, Dundas and Glengarry County Library Board be adjourned to meet again on Thursday, October 21st, 2021 at Winchester Branch or at the call of the chair. Can I have someone move that motion for me? Alex, thank you.
Perhaps we can wait out in the parking lot.
And a seconder? Dave, thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much for coming.